Hey guys, this is Carrie, and in this video, we're going to be working with some function problems. So I thought it was really important that we see that functions can be applied outside of the JavaScript canvas to just regular programs like the ones that we've been writing the whole year up until now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get started solving these problems by forking my code. This is going to look a little bit different for you when you try to fork my code, but it's the same thing. So I'll just call this the video version. And now that I forked my REPL, it should show me, yes, this is the video version. I'm going to load this one up as a web page. I'm going to bring it over here and get rid of the old one. Okay, so I've got video version there because that will probably mess me up if I don't realize it. Let's see if I can rerun it here. It looks like it's just taking a minute to get set up, hopefully not too long. Okay, great, awesome. So function problems. So I'm going to be solving each problem here on the side. Each one has its own file, just like some of the other ones that we've done. And then to solve each problem, I'm going to change the source of the script below to the problem that I'm working on. And then, okay, cool, there's a hint about how to open the JavaScript on a Chromebook. Great. All right, so I'm going to get started with problem number one. So I'm going to change the source to problem1.js. And then I'm going to head over here and I'm going to look at problem1.js. So it looks like here, this is the square a number problem. So I'm supposed to make a function that takes in a number as a parameter and returns its square. I guess I probably should have used the word define here, so I might change that for you guys, but I'm going to write the function definition here, and then I'm going to call my function 3 times in order to test that it works. So an example of this function would be if I do the square of 5, I should get 25. All right, so 2 options for this. I did put this in the toolbox for us that we can use this. When we define a function, we use this structure right here. We say function, and then we put the name of the function. I think I'm going to call this the square function. The square function takes in a number. So you could call that number. I might just call it n for short. And then the code block that's going to run whenever I call this function, the group of code that will run, is whatever I write here. So I think to square a number, I'm just going to say let answer equal. And when I square a number 5, it just means to take whatever number's in the parentheses and multiply it by itself. So I think to square n, I'll just say let answer equal n times n. The final step when we finish this program here, it's just a short function, this one, is that we're going to return out the answer. And what return does is it's going to run this code block and then output, not to the console or not to the input, but just output into our code this variable answer so that we can use it in other places. So in order to test to see that this function works, what I'm going to do is I'm going to compute 3 different squares. So I'm going to say let test1 equal, I'm going to square the number 5. So what should happen here is that I'll run the square function on 5. The answer variable should become 5 times 5. And then when I return the answer, 25, it will get stored in the test1 variable. So in order to see that test1 variable, I'm going to do a console.log test1. I'm going to copy and paste this because I'm supposed to do 3 of them. So I'll do a test2. I'm going to square 10. I guess I'd be expecting 100 from this. And then I'll console.log and see if I get the 100. And for test 3, I will square 12. And I would think that that would give me 144. Let's see if all of these work. So I'm going to refresh my page. I don't see anything because all of the interesting stuff is happening in my console. So let me open it up. And test 1, 25. Yeah, 5 squared is 25. 10 squared is 100. 12 squared is 144. So my function has passed all 3 of its tests. I'm ready to advance on to the second problem. So to do that, I'm going to go to my index.html. I'm going to switch to problem 2. For problem 2 here, I think this is a really important problem. So we've been working on the canvas a lot, and we've seen that when we work on the canvas, we have to write our angles in radians. So many of us actually prefer to work in degrees. So I feel like a useful function for me would be, I want to write a function that allows me to plug in any degree amount, and it will automatically convert it to radians. So for example, 180 degrees is half of a circle. In radians, that would be pi, half of a circle, so 3.14. If I were to convert for a full circle, degrees to radians, a full circle in degrees is 360. So when I plug that in, it should convert it to 6.28 radians. All right, so probably the way that I would write this function is I wouldn't use the cheat sheet, or the toolbox, sorry. It's called the toolbox. I call it the cheat sheet because it's kind of a cheat sheet. You can copy and paste this over, but I feel pretty comfortable writing my own functions. So I'm going to say, hey, JavaScript, I'm defining a new function. And this is like the let variable for, the let syntax, the syntax that allows us to create a oh my God, it's too early. The syntax that allows us to create a variable is let. So if I was just creating a number to store somewhere, I would use let. But I'm creating an action. So I'm going to say, here's a new function. And my function is going to be the degrees to radians function. And I would like to take in a set of degrees, or an amount of degrees. And then the procedure that I want to run on the degrees is I might have forgot how to convert degrees to radians. So maybe I'll look up in a new tag, convert degrees to radians. So apparently I'm supposed to convert the value of an angle in degrees to its equivalent radians, we need to multiply the given value with pi over 180. So it looks like I will say let radians equal, and then I'm supposed to take the given value, degrees, and multiply it by math.pi, which is just the JavaScript version for 3.1415 ... and then divide it by 180. And then I'm going to return this amount, the radians. Now functions can have more than 2 lines inside of them, like we saw with our canvas functions. These ones are just short ones to get us started. So I'm going to call my function with 3 test values. So I'll say let test1 equal degrees to radians. And I'm going to use the ones that I know the answer to. If I do 180, I'm expecting to get like pi. So I'll do a console.log of that. Of test1. I'm going to copy and paste this a couple of times so that I can make my next 2 test cases. Oops, test1 here, sorry. Test2. And then this one I'll do 360. And let's see, what would be another interesting one? I think if I do like 90? Yeah, 90 could be interesting. 90 should be like half of pi. It should be like 1.55-ish or something. All right, so let me see if my test conditions work here. Before I run it, let's just see. Degrees to radians takes in a degree amount. So yeah, 180, 360, 90, these are all degree amounts. It's going to plug that into this formula here, give me the radians. When I run this, it will return out the radians stored in test1, and then log it. Let's see if it works. Degrees to radians is not defined. All right, so I've got a problem here. I misspelled degrees. Oh no! Okay, let's refresh it again. Refresh it again. All right, so this one is giving me some more decimal places than I knew. But the first one gives me pi. Nice, 180 is pi. This one is 2 pi. It looks like twice as much because it's a full circle. 90 degrees is half of 180, so my answer here is half of pi. Yeah, 1.57 does look like it will give me 3.14. Totally 6. So my degrees to radians function works. The reason why it's underlining this is Replit is having an error. I do use this variable later. So sorry. I wish Replit didn't underline that. For the next one, you're going to need to correct a mistake that I have here, but hopefully you'll be able to find it. Problem 4, you're going to be doing on your own to write this area of a triangle. Problem 5, you'll be writing a function that solves Pythagorean theorem problems. This would have been really useful in 9th grade geometry, hopefully. Problem 6, you'll do a problem with the distance formula that you might need to Google. We're going to end up using the function that you write here when we design our game. Problem 7, you'll be writing a function that takes in an array of values and computes their average. Problem 8, I would like to actually do. So problem 8 is another tricky one. This one involves strings, though. So what we're going to do is we're going to write a function. Oh, sorry, this one is called counting vowels. So I'm supposed to write a function, or define a function, that takes in a string as a parameter. So it looks like they've got that set up for me here. And it's supposed to output the number of vowels in the string. So for the sake of this problem, I'm supposed to assume that y is always a vowel. So in the case like here, if I had plugged in my name as Carrie, it should give me 1 for y, 2, 3 for a and e, 4 for I, 5 for a, 6. Yeah, this sentence has 6 vowels. And then this sentence has 9 vowels. So this is kind of a hard problem to solve. Let's see. In order to solve this problem, I guess I would think about how would I solve it as a human first. So it looks like when I was doing that, I was going through it letter by letter. So maybe I'll make a note here. Go through letter by letter. If the letter is A, E, I, O, U, or Y, count it. I feel like that's just like exactly what I just did in order to find that this should be 6. So now, I do think that I can do a lot of this stuff with the programming syntax that we know. I know how to go through something one at a time. That feels like maybe like a for each loop, where I'm going through this letter by letter for each letter doing something. And I could maybe use like an if statement here, since I use the word if, in order to check if it's a vowel. All right, I think I'm ready to try to code this one. So what I want to do is I want to be able to go through this string letter by letter. But in order to go through it letter by letter, I don't want it as a string. I'd rather have it as a list. So my first step is going to be to convert the string to a list. For example, if it was just I would want it to look like an array. Let me make this a little bit larger here, with the letters M and Y separate so that I could check them each individually. All right, so here we go. Let list version equal. And I think I can split this string up by doing string dot splits. And that will split it into an array. And I'm putting the empty character here because I can split it like at the space, and that would give me like an array with my name is Carrie 4 objects in it. But if I split it with the empty signal, I think it will just split it after each letter. So let me just check that out here. I'll do a console.log list version in order to see what's going on there. In order to see this, I actually have to run my function, so I'm going to come down here. I guess I'm going to comment out the val counter thing. I know the answer should be 6 for this one, so I'm going to say let test1 equal this. So let me, I have to change here problem 8 as well. All right, let's refresh it. Okay, unexpected number in line. Oh, I put a space there. That's dumb. Test 1 is one word. All right, so yes, it does split it up. And then I'm also getting an error message because it's supposed to be returning count, but I haven't defined count yet. Okay, well, that's all right. I'm going to leave this console.log in my code because it's helpful for me to see this. I feel like my step 2 is going to be start counting at 0, look at each letter. If the letter is a vowel, increase my count. So in order to start counting at 0, I'll say let count equal 0. Then I want to take the list version of my sentence, and I want to go through that for each letter. And the thing that I want to do for each letter is I want to say if that letter is A, or that letter is E, or that letter is I, or that letter is O, or that letter is O. Some of these I'm making a mistake on. These should be double equals because I'm checking to see if they're equal. Let me put that correct. And finally, or that letter equals Y, then that would mean it's a vowel. So I'll set up my code block here. So if my letter is A, E, I, O, U, or Y, and notice I have to write the letter equals part for each of these, then what I want to do is I want to say count should be equal to count plus 1, because that would mean that it was a vowel. I don't need an else statement for this because if it's not a vowel, I don't want to count it. I don't care what it is. So I feel like I've got my test all lined up here. I'm going to do a console.log of test1. Let's see if this works. So yes, it tells me that here it is as a list, and then there's 6 vowels. I don't feel super confident in it though, so I want to check this one here, test 2. And I'm supposed to check you have been hacked. And I think I might have a mistake with this one. Let's see what happens. I only got 8 vowels, and that's actually a mistake. It told me here that this should be 9. So let's see. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, there are 9 vowels here, but my program only counted 8. So maybe you could figure out what went wrong here. But I think what went wrong here is that the Y here is capitalized, and I'm not checking to see if any of them are capital Y. So I'm missing all of my capital vowels. So to solve this problem, what I can do is I can say, before I get the list version, before I split it up, I want to take my string, and I want to make it all lowercase, using the dot to lowercase action, and then I want to split it. So this looks a little bit complicated, but this is basically it will take my string, turn it to lowercase, and then split it. And now I think because it's converting it to a lowercase, I won't have this capital Y that messes up my counts. Let's see if it works. Yes. So now that it converted it to lowercase, I can see that it did register it. I do have 9 vowels in this sentence. Pretty cool. This one was pretty complicated, and it was a great example that mixed in loops as well as conditional statements with compound conditions. Pretty cool. Summary of the year almost. Problem 9 is the final problem for you to try. And this one is about DNA pairing. So it will explain some stuff about DNA. And what your code is going to be doing is it's going to be taking in one strand of DNA, and it's going to be outputting the complementary strand of DNA. You might find some similar tools like splitting, loops, conditional statements useful for this one. All right, I hope you guys found this video interesting and helpful, and I'll see you in class. Bye.